Hello, my name is Dr. Dean Allen. I have a PhD in clinical psychology. My original focus was to scientifically connect the mind and the body, and I began by doing my research with biofeedback. And after doing that for many years, I kind of gave up because biofeedback didn't provide me what I was looking for. And then all of a sudden I ran into somebody who had a whole different science, which was the science of the human organ gland energy system, which forms a language. And this science basically measures the energy flow between all the different circuits. So I did this for many years. I worked with Louise Hay. She became a close friend of mine. I spent 15 years interacting with her. She tried to publish a book with me originally, and that ran into some complications that didn't turn out. So I didn't get the book published until 2013, but I now have one out there. The name of it is Know Thyself, Your Body's Wisdom for Living Consciously. And what it's all about is just becoming conscious of our system and how it functions. And it has 23 organ gland energy systems. Each of them has a very specific purpose, plan, function, issue, and trauma. And when you learn that language and then you do a measurement on an individual person that reads this all out, suddenly a lot of dots begin connecting between your life and your body. And that's basically what this work is all about. And I've been doing it since 1987. I've done thousands of clients using this system, and there's testimonials on my website to go into more detail on that, which is consciousnesssystems.com. And so if you'll go there, there's even a self-evaluation on the page that says Work with Dr. Allen. And through this self-evaluation, you can get a real good feel for all of your organs and glands and how they function. And in doing that, you're going to get a much clearer picture of who you are and how you function in your life. And all of your symptoms and pains and dysfunctions and everything will become a lot more clear as to where they really come from and how they're affecting your life. So that's basically an introduction to the work that I've been doing now for 30 plus years. The Body Talker is an infrared science that measures energy within 1/100th of a degree. What it actually measures is the density of electrons, which relates directly to heat. So heat creates degeneration in the system if it maintains over time. That's what creates aging. And basically what this measurement does is allow you to see how much drag or resistance there is in your circuits from being able to connect to who you really are. And each organ and gland has a spirit function. And when you connect with that, it regenerates your system. And when you don't, it degenerates your system. So it's just becoming more aware of who you are and how you function. And hopefully this will be a major part of all future health systems, because every health system is dealing with a human body with 23 organs and glands that all have their predetermined plan. So if you're not aligned with that, you're not helping the system. What the infrared actually measures is emotional energy, or energy motion. And when that motion is blocked by drag or trauma memory, which is exactly what happens, that manifests over time, and it also becomes familiar. And the more familiar you become with anything, the more likely you are to repeat it. So if you're repeating a dysfunctional behavior over time, it's going to manifest as a dysfunction in the physical health of the person. So it's just getting clear about how all of this stuff works in terms of each individual organ and gland. And that's basically what the language is 23 organ gland energy systems, each one with an energy motion issue or an emotional issue. And that emotional issue is what determines whether the system is going to regenerate or degenerate, because it only regenerates if that energy is in motion or flowing. When it is resisted because of triggered trauma memory, that creates a homeostasis by counterbalance, but that counterbalance creates disease, disorder, and dysfunction over time. So it's just getting clear on who you are so you can play the game the way it works and avoid playing it the way that it doesn't work and works against you. My original intention in getting my doctorate in psychology was to do a scientific connection between the mind and the body. That became a lot more difficult than I originally thought it was, but I started off with biofeedback, and biofeedback was a good introduction to all of this, but it basically only discerned the two branches of the nervous system, whether one was functioning or the other one. And that wasn't enough for me to understand humans as I had wanted to for going into psychology. I thought that's what psychology ought to be about. And my PhD, it was very good experience in some ways, but I can't say that I'm using anything now that I learned then. In fact, I'm not sure what I learned. But it created a foundation on which I continued to search. And I finally gave up on psychology for a couple of years because the only tool I had was biofeedback. And went into something else. And then I ran into this what I called a crazy guy from another planet, and he had a whole different approach to understanding humans, and he had the science to back it up. And it was this infrared science that basically measured all the circuits between every organ and every other organ and decoded it into connecting the dots for the rest of your life and how you're acting and where it comes from, and really seeing who we are and how we operate as humans. And so at that point, I decided I was going to go all in for this, and I didn't have my own equipment for a while, but I worked with a chiropractor who had just purchased it, and Louise Hay was my very first client because she just happened to be there at that time, and she was looking for some answers to her original scan. In fact, the chiropractor that I was with was set up to meet with her, and he did, and he was more excited about the body talker and the scanner and all of that he had just gotten aware of, and he did scans on her and talked to her all afternoon, and she finally said, so many things have been triggered, I need to process this, do some therapy. He said, I'm a chiropractor, you're finished with me. But he says, I do have a good friend that has a PhD in clinical psychology, and I'll introduce him to you. And so we went to dinner that night, and I started working with her with a science that I'd never used before. And she eventually gave me a quote, and she said, the body talker science is light years ahead of any other form of therapy, and I highly recommend it to anyone who really wants to understand their own programming. And that's after working with her for many years on that. So it was highly respected by her, and I wish we could have done more, but we're in the process of doing more for the future, so we'll see where it goes. The face has these 23 points, which are considered technically called force vector points. They're where all of the points of the matrix come together, and each one of those points is associated with 3 or 4 specific organs, and each organ is associated with 3 or 4 different points. So it's a matrix of energy flow, and then the computer decodes that to show which one has the most resistance and where that resistance is, and then what the emotional issues associated with it, as well as the mental processing and then the physical effect. The numbers associated with the organs and glands come from the research that was done by the Pentagon on the victims of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And the radiation poisoning that they were dying from was so intense that it accelerated their aging process from years and decades into minutes and hours. And so this accelerated degeneration, they recorded the organs and glands in terms of the order that they were going out or dying. And what they found, or what the founder of this whole science discovered from the Freedom of Information Act, is that every single one of them, their organs and glands degenerated in exactly the same order. And that what that seems to express is the order of importance for survival. And so that's where this language comes from. And as a result of that, why we can take that language and overlay it on your chain, and it'll identify where all the block circuits are. And those block circuits then not only have a physical function eventually, but they begin with an emotional and mental function, which is how you're programming your life force energy from that organ. And are you expressing it and perceiving it clearly, or are you suppressing it? Because if you're suppressing it, that's creating resistance, and that's the problem. First two is what I've always called the two-step to life. And they're the two most important organs. And in simple language, one's designed to keep the bad stuff out, and the other is designed to let the good stuff in. And it's the thymus and the heart. And the emotions are aggression and love. So in other words, you've got to be aggressive enough to be able to take care of yourself and allow yourself to feel safe. And that's really the issue with the thymus. And so it's primarily a safety issue, but the solution is aggression. And it's the right dose at the right time. That's the only thing that works. Too much aggression or not enough aggression both create their own problems. And the programming that goes against this is probably punishment as a child for, learning your aggressive behaviors. Now, with perfect feedback, that's certainly possible, but very few people got that because nobody knew what they were doing. And that's what results from that. So anyway, that's the thymus. And the heart, like I said, is designed to let the good stuff in. And the emotion is love, and what the operative word is accept. And so it's to accept what's real, and most of all, to love the laws and ways of energy. And the reason you love them is because when you align with them in terms of your thoughts and behaviors, they regenerate. And when you don't do that, it degenerates. And that's what we call aging. And the human body is not designed to degenerate. It's actually designed to regenerate. And the only thing that prevents it from doing that is drag or resistance, and that's primarily from triggered and projected trauma memory and causing us to live the present from the past, and that's seldom functional. Because the present is always different than the past. And if you're not conscious enough to discern that clearly and quickly, you can get in a lot of traps. The resistance that we're talking about is this triggered trauma memory that gets projected by way of associations. In other words, what does your present circumstance associate in your past? And it'll usually be on a feeling level, and those things are done unconsciously, automatically triggered and projected into your life. And if you're not conscious enough to understand what's going on, you will relive the past in your present, and it won't work out well. because your present won't be able to connect to anything that you're projecting. And that's not going to, create much harmony or any. So anyway, that's really how the system, that's part of learning this system that you're in charge of. And the clearer you can see how it works and how it doesn't work, the better chance you have at this game, which is life. And life is an energy game, and every one of your organs and glands is a life force energy system. And it has its own purpose, plan, function, issue, and trauma. And once you learn that and learn your own history and connect the dots, you've got a lot of information that'll help you, because clarity is a powerful tool. Like I say, the first two organs are the two-step to life, and that's enough aggression to allow you to feel safe, and enough love and discernment to allow what's trustworthy within. And if you violate any of those rules, you will pay for them. So it's a very strict energy system, how these organs and glands work. Now, the third one is very interesting too, which is the colon. And the originator of this always said that the colon was there to clean up the mistakes of love. And the emotion of the colon is hate. And you've got to be able to, first of all, perceive what you hate. And hate is defined as that which no longer nurtures you. And hate is designed to eliminate, which is what the colon does, what no longer nurtures you. So in other words, the emotional function is always a mirror image of the physical function. Now, the traumas that create a problem with that is early programming of hating and not being able to do anything about it. And that creates basically the colon issue. And as a result of that, why you have to be able, and this is true of all of them, you have to be able to be conscious enough in the moment to get ahead of the trigger. And especially if something is extremely familiar that you've, programmed your whole life. And so every one of these organs has an issue like that once you start seeing how it's working in your life, you can put a lot of things together. Now, it'll always depend upon your first of all, your consciousness of it, and second of all, your alignment with your behavior with that. Because that's what the game's all about. And I remind people, the only thing they give the Academy Awards for in Hollywood is performance. And that's the only thing that counts. And that's on an individual basis. And it's performing in alignment with your spirit life force for each one of your organs and glands. The best way to see this in much more detail than I'll be able to give you probably right now is to go to my webpage. And my webpage is consciousnesssystems.com. I've got many testimonials in there, and they're very different from probably what, see, my whole career, I started off doing one thing and ended up doing a completely different thing. And that's kind of where I'm at now. But I started off with traditional psychological concepts, and that I never found them particularly productive. And the more I got into something much more real, which is this science, the more productive all of my sessions were. And the reason was very simple, because they were getting more clear about who they were and how they functioned more quickly in a more scientific way than I was ever capable of doing before. And so consequently, as a result of that, why I ended up with some incredible clients. There weren't very many of them, but there was enough, especially when I was living in Hollywood or Los Angeles, Santa Monica. And that was many years ago, and since then I think we've been in transition. This conference that I just attended, I've been going to these for 30 years, and this is the best one I've ever been to, because I always felt like a fish out of water with every other one I've ever been to. And this one, why almost everybody you talked to, they were tuned right in to what the game is, which is an energy game, and that's what's going to bring it all together. No matter what you're doing, that's what you're dealing with. In terms of the future for this, I've done a lot of thinking on that one. In fact, I first came to this realization probably in about 2010. And at that point, I realized to do what this science actually demands in order for humanity to benefit from it, is way beyond any capabilities I had. So my objective was to find a way to make more money faster. That's the only way the formula worked out for me. And I found some ways, and we're invested in them, and I'm confident that we're going to be able to not have that as a restriction. And so consequently, my future plans are what I refer to as my humanitarian project, which is called the Consciousness Project. And what the Consciousness Project is all about is, first of all, getting this science out there and getting it evolved and developed and making it user-friendly and available to all healthcare professionals. Because as far as I'm concerned, this is the bottom line. I don't care what you're doing. And you'll be able to identify more clearly what your client's issue really is, especially on an emotional level. And most of the problems are on the emotional level. And a lot of people who I consider very advanced, they're all coming to that conclusion. And these are MDs. So I think the emotional issue is the big forefront of the entire health process. And this is basically a science that measures that on a very intricate level. Actually, when you do the binomial permutations of 23 organs and glands, you end up with 253 two-way circuits. And that's the circuit between every organ and gland and every other organ and gland in the body. And those circuits, that's what we're measuring. Each one of them has a different combination of an emotional issue or an energy motion issue. In other words, the energy flowing between those organs instead of blocked from flowing between those organs. And that's the difference between trauma memory and triggered automatic projection into it, which all goes on unconsciously until you understand who you are and how you function. One of the most basic things that I've learned from this entire work is basically two energies that run everything from the universe to every individual being. And these energies are very simple. And on the universal level, they call it stars and black holes. And one radiates energy out and creates light. The other one sucks energy into a dark magnetic black hole, and it pulls mass apart to the point of the lowest level of elements, which is hydrogen, and then it sprays out light into the universe. That's God's plan. And so the same thing happens with humans. We're two things, only we don't call them stars and black holes. We call them dragons and spirits. So your spirit is your life force. That's what keeps you alive. And the dragon is the drag on that life force from trauma memory, which creates fear, which creates resistance. And you can create homeostasis. The whole game of life is homeostasis, and you have to maintain homeostasis continuously. And if you're out for more than a few seconds or minutes, you're dead. So homeostasis becomes the entire dragon spirit issue. And you can create homeostasis almost instantly with counterbalance. And that's you create a drag on this organ and a counterbalance a drag on this organ. And it's like walking a tightrope with a balance beam. It's a lot easier and quicker. But over time, it's degenerative. So these are short-term solutions that God gave us so that we could survive, immediate traumas, since we couldn't be out of homeostasis for more than a few seconds or minutes. But he did not intend for us to use them as a way of life, because they dysfunction, they degenerate, they disorder, they create all kinds of problems. So the only way to do it is to clear the circuits for each organ and gland so that you can perceive clearly what that organ or gland is tuned into, and you can express effectively and appropriately, clearly and quickly. That's the whole training of being human right there. The body talker science at this point looks like this, and this system was created in 2001, so it's already antiquated, and one of the first things that we will do is upgrade this into new technology and put it together so it can be available to all healthcare professionals, especially what I call all conscious healthcare professionals who see the bigger picture of energy, and therefore will automatically see the bigger picture of what this science reveals, so they can understand better whatever they're doing. It doesn't matter what they're doing. They're going to see how the energy is flowing through the different organs and glands and what those issues are. So it'll be very effective for all of them. In the meantime, the best way to begin to get involved in this is to go to my website, and the page that says Work with Dr. Allen, at the end of that there is a self-evaluation that you can go through and answer one question for each of the organs, or actually 2 questions on each of the organs, on a 1 to 5 scale. And at the end of it, you just evaluate it clearly. And of course, all self-evaluations are based on your consciousness of yourself. So that is always an error, but it depends on how much. But just be honest with yourself, and it'll tell you a big picture for free at the website. And if you would like, after you've done that, if you would like to work with me, text me at that number. The number is area code 202, or area code 208, 202-0257. And text me there, tell me you want an appointment, and my fee is $100 an hour, and it can be very helpful if you're confused about anything that's going on in your life. So that's what it's all about.
Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.